The second time I woke up on June 3rd, my dead husband was standing in our kitchen making coffee. Except Julian had never died, I had. For several seconds I couldn't move. The espresso machine hissed. Sunlight fell across the white quartz island. Julian stood barefoot in gray sweatpants, scrolling through his phone while milk steamed in the little stainless pitcher I had bought him for Christmas. Everything looked so ordinary that my mind rejected it. Then his phone lit up. Tessa, same room tonight. I told Mara I'm helping my mom, my best friend's name, the same message, the same morning, the same 6 weeks before the fire. I stared at the screen over Julian's shoulder while every nerve in my body remembered smoke. Not imagined smoke, remembered it. The heat that had peeled the skin from my left palm when I grabbed a steel door handle. The roar inside Foundry 17 when something above the ceiling gave way. Julian coughing somewhere behind me. Tessa screaming my name, me getting outside once, me turning around, going back, dying. Mara. Julian turned, the phone disappeared against his thigh. You okay? In my first life, that was the moment I had asked him who was texting. He had lied, I had pushed. He had lied again. By dinner, I had checked our shared calendar, found the hotel bar where he and Tessa were meeting, and driven there shaking so badly I nearly sideswiped a bus. I had caught them in a corner booth with Tessa's hand resting on his knee. 6 weeks later I was dead. This time I picked up my coffee, didn't sleep well. Julian studied me. He had always been good at reading rooms and terrible at reading me. Maybe I had helped teach him that. For years, whenever something hurt, I turned practical. When my father died, I handled probate. When our biggest client walked, I cut expenses. When our marriage began shrinking into calendars and airport pickups, I scheduled counseling. Problems had steps. Feelings did not. Julian walked around the island and touched my shoulder. His wedding ring brushed my skin. I almost vomited. You have the 10:30 with Elaine, right? Yes. And dinner with Tessa. His hand stopped. It lasted less than a second. Yes, brand strategy. Tell her I said hi. I smiled. Julian smiled back. That hurt more than I expected. He kissed the top of my head and went upstairs to shower. I stood alone in the kitchen listening to the pipes come alive behind the walls. Then I put my coffee down and opened the calendar on my phone. July 18th, the date still existed. In my first life, Foundry 17 had burned at 10:42 p.m. At 10:47, I had called 911 from inside the building. At 10:51, I had made it through a side door. At 10:52, I had heard Julian screaming that Tessa was still trapped. At 10:53, I had gone back. My death certificate said smoke inhalation complicated by blunt force trauma. Julian survived. Tessa survived. I didn't. I knew because somehow in those impossible seconds before I woke here again, I had seen more than I should have. Julian at my funeral, Tessa beside him but not touching him, the company losing 2 major clients, my mother sitting in the first row with both hands wrapped around the black purse she'd carried to my college graduation, and Julian saying to someone outside the church, she went back for me. Not thank you, not I loved her, just the fact, as if my death had become another item on a list of things Mara Ellison had handled for him. Upstairs, the shower started. I opened my laptop. My first instinct was primitive, take everything, change passwords, empty accounts, fire Tessa, destroy Julian before he understood what was happening. Then another memory surfaced. Priya Shah, the divorce attorney I had met 3 days before I died, leaning across a polished walnut desk. If you think your husband is hiding business assets, don't touch anything yet. Preserve documents, separate emotion from action. I had ignored her. In my first life, I had been too furious. This time I created a folder on an encrypted personal drive. I downloaded the company's bylaws, shareholder agreement, board minutes, current bank authorizations, outstanding loan documents, insurance policies and vendor master list. All documents I was authorized to access as COO. I did not open Julian's personal email. I did not guess passwords. I did not look through Tessa's private files. I didn't need to become them to beat them. At 8:11, I noticed the first thing I had missed before. 5 invoices from a vendor called Lark and Ash Creative. 14,800, 16,200, 9,600, 17,400, 12,900, all below the $20,000 threshold that required my secondary approval. I clicked the vendor profile, mailing address, a virtual office in Rhino Services, concept development, spatial branding, launch strategy, approving executive, Julian Vale, project code, F17. My hands went cold. Foundry 17. In the first timeline, I thought the fire had been separate from the affair, a terrible accident in a building Julian had been consulting on. Now I wasn't sure. I exported the records, then I did something harder. Nothing. At 9:02, Julian came downstairs in a navy suit. He found me answering email. Still alive? He asked. I looked at him. A stupid phrase, a normal phrase. He had said it 100 times when I worked too early. I almost laughed. Apparently. He kissed my cheek. I'll probably be late. I figured. He paused again. Mara? Yes. For a moment. Something moved across his face, guilt, maybe, or fear. I had spent years assuming I knew him well enough to name every expression. That certainty had killed me once. I've been thinking, he said. After this quarter, maybe we should take a trip, just us. In my first life, I would have heard hope, now I heard delay, maybe? He left. I waited until I saw his car pull away, then I called Priya's office. Her assistant offered me an appointment 3 days later. I need something sooner. Is there an emergency? I looked at the kitchen where Julian's coffee cup sat beside mine. No physical danger, financial concerns, possible marital misconduct, shared business. A pause. I can put you in tomorrow at 8. Thank you. My second call was harder. I stared at Noah Bennett's number for nearly 10 minutes. For years since we'd spoken. For years since I told him I didn't need him interfering in my marriage. For years since he said very quietly, "I'm not asking you to choose me, Mara, I'm asking you to look at the numbers." I had hated him for that, or maybe I had hated the possibility that he was right. Noah had been my friend before Julian, not boyfriend, not exactly. There had been one summer in our 20s when something between us hovered at the edge of becoming real. Then Julian arrived in my life like a door thrown open. Noah stepped back years later when our company was struggling. Noah questioned several financing decisions Julian wanted to make. Julian told me Noah was jealous. I told Noah to stay out of our marriage and our business. He did, completely. My thumb hovered over his name. Then I remembered waking under a collapsed beam, unable to breathe. Pride was a ridiculous thing to die for. Twice I pressed call. He answered after 4 rings. Bennett. Noah. Silence, not dramatic silence, the kind that tells you someone has stopped doing whatever they were doing. Mara. Yes. Is someone dead? My throat tightened. Not yet. Another pause. What happened? I need a forensic review. No. The answer came so fast I almost smiled. I haven't explained. You don't have to if this is Ellison Vale, no? You warned me once. And you told me never to contact you again. I know. I respected that, I know. Mara, what do you want? The old me would have bristled at his tone. The woman who had died in a burning building had less use for pride. I want to know whether my husband is moving money through a related vendor. I want to know without accusing him before I understand the facts. And I want someone who won't tell me what I want to hear. Noah said nothing. I waited. Finally, he exhaled. 1 hour. What? Send me nothing until we have an engagement letter and conflict check. My office. 1 hour. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. For the first time since waking, the future felt different, not safe, just different. That was enough. Noah's office was on the 7th floor of a building downtown that looked exactly like the sort of place he would choose. Clean glass, no inspirational slogans, no decorative books arranged by color. The receptionist took my name without recognition and asked me to wait. I had expected that. What I hadn't expected was how nervous I would be. I had walked into investor meetings where people twice my age tried to explain my own balance sheet to me. I had negotiated leases, layoffs, acquisitions, and one ugly lawsuit involving a hotel group in Arizona. But when Noah appeared at the end of the hall in a charcoal shirt with his sleeves rolled to his forearms, I forgot the first sentence I'd rehearsed. He had more gray at his temples. Otherwise, he looked almost exactly the same, lean, controlled, observant in a way that used to make lying to him impossible. Mara, Noah. He did not hug me. I was grateful. He led me into a conference room and closed the door. A legal pad sat in front of him. You said related party payments. I nodded. He looked down. Before we get into it, this isn't a friendship favor. I didn't ask for one. Good, because I won't do this off the books and I won't help you access anything you don't have a legal right to access. I know. If this turns into divorce discovery, your attorney handles that. I have a consultation tomorrow. One eyebrow rose. That was the first crack in his expression. So we're there? I think so. He waited. It was an old habit of his. Noah never filled silence for other people. Eventually they filled it themselves. My husband is sleeping with Tessa. The words landed between us. His eyes changed, not surprise exactly, pain. Then it was gone. How do you know? I saw a message on his phone, displayed on the lock screen while he was standing next to me. Did you open it? No. Take a picture. No. Good. I almost laughed. That's your response to adultery? No. To not creating a privacy problem for yourself? Yes. Still, Noah. I slid a printed sheet across the table. Lark and Ash Creative, $60,000 in payments over 6 weeks. All below my secondary approval threshold. He studied the page. What does EVS normally spend on external concept work? Maybe $25,000 a month across all vendors. Who owns Lark and Ash? I haven't looked beyond the public vendor record. Why not? Because I called you. His mouth shifted, almost a smile, it disappeared. Project code. F17. Meaning. Foundry 17, he looked up. Warehouse redevelopment on Brighton. I blinked. You know it? My firm reviewed a lender package for a different bidder last year old. Industrial conversion, complicated building. What kind of complicated? Environmental history, egress, electrical capacity. Nothing unusual for a century-old warehouse, but expensive if you want public assembly occupancy. My fingers went numb. Public assembly occupancy. The phrase triggered the memory of bodies pressing toward a block-side corridor, smoke flattening people toward the floor, a bright orange line racing along a wall. Mara. I focused on him. What? You left. Sorry. No, you didn't get distracted, you went somewhere. I folded my hands under the table. I know something bad happens at that building. How? I don't know how to explain it yet. He stared at me long enough that I thought he might end the meeting. Instead he pulled the invoice sheet closer. Then explain what you can. So I did, not the death, not the rebirth. I told him Julian was hiding the affair. I told him Foundry 17 mattered. I told him I believed there was a business connection that I had. Failed to see. Noah listened. When I finished, he asked, "Are you afraid Julian will hurt you?" No. Are you afraid he'll destroy records? Maybe if he knows I'm looking. Then don't let him know. That simple, not dramatic. I had spent my first life thinking revenge had to feel like fire. Noah treated it like accounting. First step, he said. Preserve what you're authorized to preserve. Second, identify who owns Larkin Ash through public business records. Third, ask the board chair for a formal review if there's enough to justify it. Do not turn yourself into a private detective. I wasn't planning to. You were planning something. I looked at him. You always hated that I could tell. I hated that you were usually smug about it. I was 29. You were unbearable at 29. You married Julian anyway. The room changed. Noah looked away first. There it was, the piece of our past neither of us had agreed to discuss. He capped his pen. I'll run a public record and payment pattern review. Nothing beyond your authority. If I see a conflict that requires board counsel, I stop. Fine. My rate is in the letter. I can afford you. I remember. The words came out colder than he meant them to, or maybe exactly as cold as he meant them. I sat back. For years earlier, Julian had accused Noah of resenting that I had used money from my grandfather's estate to keep Avis alive during a bad quarter. Noah had actually been warning me that Julian's proposed debt structure put too much personal exposure on me, but I had been tired. Julian had been angry. Noah had been blunt. I chose the person I went home with. That part was mine. You were right, I said. Noah's eyes lifted. About what? The financing structure. That was 4 years ago. I know. I don't need retroactive vindication. I wasn't offering it. Then what are you offering? An apology. His jaw tightened. I continued before I lost the nerve. I made you into the villain because it was easier than admitting my husband and I disagreed about something important. You gave me advice I didn't like. I punished you for it. Noah looked down at the legal pad. Julian helped. He did. But you did it. Yes, that mattered. He nodded once. Thank you. No forgiveness, no dramatic softening, just acknowledgement. I respected him more for it. My phone buzzed. Tessa, dinner tomorrow. I miss you. Just us girls. I stared at the message. Noah noticed her. Yes. What are you going to say? In my first life, I had thrown my phone against a hotel room wall after seeing Tessa with Julian. This time I typed, absolutely 7. Tessa replied almost immediately, perfect. Love you. My chest hurt. Noah watched my face. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Why? Because if I confront them now, I'll get an affair. I tapped the invoice sheet. If I wait, I may get the truth. Noah leaned back. That sounds dangerously close to revenge. Maybe. Know the difference. Between what? Finding facts and wanting the facts to hurt. I met his eyes. What if I want both? Then at least be honest with yourself. That night Julian came home at 11:38. He smelled like cedar cologne and the citrus perfume Tessa had worn since college. He climbed into bed beside me. I kept my breathing slow. After a few minutes he whispered, "You awake?" "No." He gave a tired laugh. "Mara?" I rolled toward him. He looked guilty. It would have been easy to ask. It would have been easy to explode. Instead I touched his face. His eyes closed. And that was when I understood something awful. I still loved him, not enough to save the marriage, not enough to forgive what I knew. But love did not disappear just because the facts changed. Maybe that was why betrayal hurt. If love vanished the moment someone failed you, there would be nothing to break. Sleep? I said. Julian caught my wrist before I turned away. We're okay, right? My heart gave one hard beat. In another life I had answered yes. This time I said, I don't know. His fingers loosened. He lay awake long after he thought I was sleeping, so did I. The next morning Noah emailed one sentence: Larkin Ash Creative LLC is registered to Tessa Morgan. Below it was an address, Foundry 17. I did not confront Tessa at dinner. That remains one of the hardest things I have ever done. She arrived 12 minutes late wearing the green jacket I had given her for her 31st birthday. Mara. She hugged me. I let her. Her perfume was the same scent I had smelled on my husband's pillow. For half a second my hands locked behind her back. Then I let go. You look exhausted, she said. So do you? She laughed. Brand launch? We sat by the window. Tessa ordered sparkling water because she said she was driving. I remembered that detail from my first life too. Back then I had wondered why she wasn't drinking. 3 hours later I saw her at a hotel with Julian. The explanation had been simple. She wanted to remember it. How are you and Julian? She asked. I nearly admired the nerve. Busy. You two are always busy. So are you? Occupational hazard. She smiled. Tessa had been beautiful since college in the effortless way that irritated women who needed effort. Soft brown hair, wide hazel eyes. A laugh that made strangers feel included. When we were 22, she couldn't pay rent after her father disappeared into a second bankruptcy. I let her sleep on my couch for 5 months. She spent the next decade joking that I had saved her life. I thought the joke meant gratitude. I had never asked what it felt like to owe someone for that long. What are you working on? I asked. Nothing exciting. Larkin Ash. Her water glass stopped halfway to her mouth there. Not proof of adultery, something better knowledge. She set the glass down carefully. Who told you about that? Vendor file. You went through my vendor file. I'm COO. She looked toward the window. It's a side consulting entity. While you're employed full-time by EVS, it hasn't done outside business. It has billed us. Her face changed. Mara. I asked what it is. She leaned forward. Julian wanted a separate creative vehicle for Foundry 17. The developer preferred clean project accounting. Then why wasn't it disclosed as a related party vendor? Because it wasn't supposed to be permanent. That doesn't answer the question. Her eyes hardened. There was the Tessa I almost never saw. You know, not everything needs to go through you. I sat back. Interesting. Company money does. It was approved by Julian. He's CEO. And you're sleeping with him. Silence. It was not a calculated move. I had planned to wait. But sometimes the truth grows too large for the mouth holding it. Tessa went white. A server approached, saw our faces and kept walking. How? Don't? Mara, don't insult me by making me prove what you already know. Her eyes filled immediately. I hated that. Not because I thought the tears were fake, because I knew they weren't. How long? I asked. She looked down. Tessa. Almost a year. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table. 11 months. I had guessed 6. Did it start before Mexico? She nodded. Our 5th anniversary trip. Julian had been quiet the entire week. I thought he was stressed about work. Did you come to my house afterward? Tessa covered her mouth. I remembered 2 days after Mexico. She sat at my kitchen counter eating soup I made because she had a cold. Julian came home early. The 3 of us watched a movie. I fell asleep between them. A small sound left my throat. Mara, I am so sorry. No? I am. You're sorry now? I've been sorry the entire time. Then why did you keep doing it? Tessa wiped her face. I don't know how to answer that without sounding worse. Try. She stared at me. You make everything look easy. I almost laughed. That is your explanation? No, God, no. She closed her eyes. When we were young, you were the one who fixed everything: rent, jobs, introductions. My mom's lawyer. When I got hired at EVS, everybody knew I was your friend. When I got promoted, people said it was because of you. I never. I know. That stopped me. I know you never said that. That almost made it worse. Her voice shook. You never held anything over me, so I couldn't even be angry at you without feeling ungrateful. And Julian. He felt the same way. Something inside me went still. He told you that. He felt like the company was yours, your seed money, your systems, your investor relationships. Every time he made a risky call, you asked for models and downside analysis. I was COO. I know. You keep saying that. Because knowing you're reasonable doesn't stop resentment from existing. The sentence landed harder than an excuse would have. Tessa looked wrecked. We talked, that's all at first, about work, about you, about feeling like supporting actors in your life. I felt heat rise in my face. And then you decided the ethical solution was to sleep together. No. But you did. Yes, no defense, I hated that too. Does he love you? Tessa's face twisted. I think he thinks he does. Do you? She looked away. Yes. There are answers you believe will destroy you, then they arrive, and somehow you remain sitting upright. I took cash from my wallet and put it under my water glass. You're leaving EVS. Her head snapped up. You can't fire me because I slept with Julian. I'm not firing you tonight. Then what? There will be a conflict review. You own a vendor billing the company. You did not disclose the relationship. You are romantically involved with the executive. Approving those invoices, that is not a marital issue. Fear replaced grief. Mara? That's the part you should have thought about. Larkin Ash wasn't stealing. Then the review will show that. She reached across the table. I moved my hand before she could touch it. Mara, Foundry is Julian's chance to have something that isn't just yours. My heartbeat changed. What does that mean? Tessa froze. What is Foundry 17? You know? I know it's a warehouse project. What is it to Julian? She swallowed. A future. There it was, they weren't only having an affair, they were leaving, not tonight, not tomorrow, but they were building somewhere to go. I stood. Mara, please. I looked down at the woman who had been at my graduation, my wedding, my father's funeral. I wanted to slap her, I wanted to cry, I wanted to ask whether any of the last 10 years had been real. Instead I said, do not destroy company records. Her face went pale. If anything disappears after tonight, Elaine will know. When and from whose account? I walked away, my hands began shaking outside. Noah was not waiting around the corner, no miraculous rescue, no romantic coincidence. I sat in my car alone for nearly 20 minutes before I trusted myself to drive. Then I called him, he answered on the second ring. I confronted her. So much for patience. I know. Are you safe? Yes. Did she threaten you? No. Did you threaten her? No. A pause. Good. I laughed once, ugly and wet. She loves him. Noah said. Nothing, she said. They both felt like supporting actors in my life. Still nothing. Tell me she's awful. No. I gripped the steering wheel. Why not? Because you don't need me to decide how you should feel. I need something. I know, his voice softened. But I'm not going to help you turn pain into a simple story if it isn't one. I closed my eyes. I hate you. No, you don't. I did for 4 years. No, you hated what I represented. Still unbearable. Apparently. That tiny edge of humor almost broke me. I wiped my face. What did you find? Enough to go to Elaine. My breathing stopped. Tell me. Larkin Ash paid deposits to 3 subcontractors working at Foundry 17. Some EVS staff time appears to have been coded to regular client projects while those employees were doing Foundry concept work. That could be reclassified. Correct. So not theft. Not necessarily, but undisclosed related party activity, potential corporate opportunity issues, and inaccurate project accounting are enough for a board review. I stared through the windshield. Anything else? Yes, his voice changed. There are 2 electrical contractors in the payment trail. One invoice says temporary power redistribution. Every muscle in my body locked. Noah. What? Send me that invoice. Mara. Please. He did. I opened it. The date July 18th. Installation finalization. I remembered fire running along the ceiling. And suddenly the affair felt almost small. I called Elaine Cho. She answered with, this better be good. It isn't. I looked at the invoice again. I need an emergency board meeting. Elaine did not care that Julian was sleeping with Tessa. She cared that Tessa owned a vendor. That distinction saved me. Our emergency board meeting happened Monday morning in the EVS conference room. 3 voting members, me, Julian, Elaine, outside counsel attended by video. Noah was present as an independent financial consultant. Tessa was asked to wait outside. Julian arrived angry. Not guilty, angry. You hired Noah. Yes. Without telling me. I retained him personally for preliminary analysis and provided only records I was authorized to access. The board will decide what happens next. His eyes cut toward Noah, old hatred. Noah barely looked at him. Elaine tapped the table. Focus. Julian opened his hands. Fine, what's the accusation? No accusation, Elaine said. Questions? She pushed a packet across the table. Larkin Ash Creative LLC, owned by Tessa Morgan. Approximately $71,000 in EVS payments and reimbursed expenses. Approved primarily by you, no related party disclosure. Julian leaned back. This is ridiculous. Excellent, Elaine said. Then it should be easy to explain. It was project accounting. Why a company owned by your employee? Tessa was developing the concept. Why wasn't that disclosed? Because there was nothing improper. Elaine stared at him. That's not how disclosure works. Julian looked at me. This is because of us. Us. You know exactly what I mean, Elaine sighed. I don't, and unless us appears in the general ledger, I don't particularly care. Noah looked down. I almost smiled. Julian's face darkened. Fine, Mara knows Tessa and I have been seeing each other. Elaine stopped moving. Outside counsel stopped typing. Noah's face did not change. For 5 seconds nobody spoke. Then Elaine said, well, that makes the disclosure problem considerably worse. Julian looked stunned. Maybe he had expected scandal to overwhelm procedure. Instead it clarified it. Elaine continued. You approved payments to a business owned by an employee with whom you were having an undisclosed sexual relationship. They were legitimate services. Possibly, that's why we're reviewing them. Mara is weaponizing the company because our marriage is failing. I felt the old instinct rise, defend myself, explain, make everyone understand. Noah spoke first. I haven't assessed the marriage. Julian turned. No one asked you. You're implying my work is retaliatory. It isn't. These are control deficiencies. Whether Mara likes you, hates you, or renews her vows tomorrow. Julian laughed bitterly. You've been waiting years for this. Noah looked at him. No. Just that, no satisfaction. It made Julian angrier. Elaine placed both palms on the table. Here's what happens. Independent review. No document deletion. No changes to vendor records. Payments to Lark and Ash. Pause pending review. Any Foundry 17 work done with EVS staff or resources gets identified and reclassified. You can't freeze a vendor without disrupting the project, Julian said. We absolutely can pause discretionary payments from this company. The developer will walk. Then perhaps the project should not have been structured through an undisclosed entity. Julian turned to me. You did this. I finally spoke. No, I found it. His face changed. For a second I saw the man I married, not the CEO, not the cheater, the man who used to build cardboard restaurant models on our apartment floor because we couldn't afford design software licenses. You could have come to me. Would you have told me? His silence answered. Elaine ended the meeting with temporary financial controls requiring 2 executive approvals for new related vendor payments and board council oversight of the review. Not revenge, governance. It was almost disappointing. Pain wanted spectacle. Reality gave me policy. Afterward Julian followed me into my office. He closed the door. You humiliated me. I looked at him. You announced your affair in a board meeting. Because you forced it. I didn't say Tessa's name once. You knew I'd have to explain. Yes. His face twisted. God, Mara, everything with you is strategy. That hit because it was partly true. What should it be? Human? I was human at dinner with Tessa. You confronted her. Yes. He looked genuinely hurt. Before me. She didn't marry me. He sat in the chair across from my desk. For the first time he looked tired rather than angry. I didn't mean for this to happen. No one ever does. Don't do that. What? That voice. What voice? The one you use when you've already decided what the other person is. I stared at him. He rubbed both hands over his face. Tessa listened to me. So did I. No, you solved me. The words hurt because I'd heard a version of them before. You came home upset about a client. You gave me a revenue problem. Because we owned a company. I came home afraid we were failing. You opened Excel. What did you want? I wanted you to say you were scared too. I had no answer. Julian laughed without humor. See? That does not explain sleeping with my best friend. I know. Then stop offering it as if it does. I am trying to tell you how I got there. And I'm telling you getting there was a series of choices. He looked down. Yes. That stopped me. No denial, no blame, just yes. I sat behind my desk. How long were you planning to leave? His face changed again. Tessa told me about Foundry. Of course she did. How long? After launch. 6 weeks. Maybe 2 months. Were you going to tell me before or after moving company opportunities into Lark and Ash? His head jerked up. We weren't stealing EVS. Then explain Foundry. It was supposed to become a separate venue concept. EVS would have been contracted by a company owned by Tessa. Temporarily. Would I have known you were planning to join it? Silence. I laughed. There it was. He stood. You always assume the worst once you feel betrayed. I watched you build the worst quietly. For a year. Mara, get out. He did. An hour later Noah appeared at my door. You okay? No. Good answer. I leaned back. He says I solved him instead of loving him. Noah sat opposite me. Did you? I stared. You are supposed to be on my side? I am on the side of not lying to you. That's an exhausting side. You used to like it. I used to be 25. He looked at the framed company launch photo on my wall, Julian and me, Tessa beside us. Noah had taken that picture. I don't think. You caused him to cheat, Noah said. Thank you. I do think you can be controlling when you're afraid. I glared, he continued. And Julian can be insecure when he feels dependent, and Tessa can resent you while loving you. All of those things can be true without making what they did acceptable. I looked down at my hands. When did adulthood become this annoying? Approximately 26. A laugh escaped me. This one was real, Noah smiled. For a moment we were ourselves again. Then his expression faded. We found something else. My stomach dropped. What? Foundry 17 doesn't appear to have a final certificate of occupancy for assembly use. I stared at him. Could people legally be there? Workers depending on permits and conditions. A private gathering is another question. Temporary power. Still in place. I thought about July 18th. Who do I call? For safety. Yes. The city inspection line or fire prevention bureau, but don't exaggerate what you know. I won't. Noah studied me. You're scared of that building. Yes. Why? I looked at him. I just am. That night I filed a factual complaint, no prophecy, no story, just invoice-back concerns regarding temporary electrical installation and anticipated private use. 2 days later the city scheduled an inspection for the first time. I thought maybe there would be no fire at all. I should have felt relieved. Instead I was terrified because if July 18th changed, then I had no map anymore. Priya Shah told me not to file for divorce. Angry. People make expensive decisions when they want the paperwork to communicate pain, she said. We were sitting in her office while she reviewed the documents I had brought. Divorce paperwork communicates legal positions. If you want to communicate pain, write a letter and don't send it. I don't want to write a letter. Excellent. She looked at the preliminary business review. You and Julian own substantial closely held business interests. That means valuation, characterization, possible marital appreciation, compensation history, tax issues. So not quick. Nothing involving a private company is quick. I don't want his money. That's also something angry people say. I gave her a look. She smiled. My job is not to make you greedy. My job is to make sure you understand what you're giving up before you give it up. I liked her. She did not turn my misery into a slogan. We discussed temporary living arrangements, joint accounts, personal credit, company compensation. She did not tell me to drain anything. Instead she recommended opening an individual account for future earnings, keeping records, maintaining ordinary household expenses until we had an agreement, and avoiding unusual transfers. What about the house? I asked. Do you feel safe staying there? Yes. Then don't move out simply to make a statement. I think I want him to ask. If he refuses, we handle it. Practical, slow, nothing like television. When I returned home, Julian was in the living room. He had opened a bottle of wine but poured only one glass. We need to talk. Yes. He looked surprised that I agreed. I sat across from him. Tessa resigned. I hadn't known. When? This afternoon. Effective immediately. She offered 2 weeks. Elaine told her HR and counsel would decide. I nodded. Julian stared at the glass. She thinks I ruined her life. Did you? She made her own choices. Interesting. He flinched. I deserved that. Yes. He looked toward the windows. Are you filing? Yes. His hand tightened around the glass. I expected anger. Instead his face folded in a way I had never seen. Mara, I met with an attorney. Can we not do this yet? We have been doing this for 11 months. I just didn't know. I ended it. I stared at him. When? Yesterday. After the board meeting. Yes. That isn't choosing me. I know. It's losing control of the situation. He stood abruptly. You think you know everything I feel? No, I think I know what you did. There's a difference. That's the only difference that matters to me right now. He walked to the fireplace, then back. I love you. I believed him. That was the problem. Julian loved me. Tessa probably loved me too. People did terrible things while carrying real love inside them. Love was not proof of character. I love you too, I said. He went still. I had not meant to say it, but once I did, I refused to take it back. His eyes filled. Then why? Because love isn't the same as trust. He sat down. I continued. And because I don't want to spend the rest of my life checking your phone, wondering which part of your work is really yours, looking at my closest friend and remembering you touched her. He covered his face. We could go to counseling. Maybe you should. We? No. He looked at me. Not now. That was all I could promise. He left the house that night, not forever. He took a suitcase to a hotel. I stood in the doorway while he put it in his car. In my first life, I had thought strength meant making someone regret leaving. This time I simply watched him go. 3 days later, Noah and I met at a coffee shop to review the next batch of records. The city had inspected Foundry 17. They issued correction notices, temporary wiring, emergency lighting, obstructed exit path caused by stored renovation materials. No public events until corrections were verified. My lungs finally loosened. So that's it, I said. Noah looked at the report. That's what? No fire, he frowned. You keep talking about that building as if it's scheduled to burn. I stirred coffee I wasn't drinking. What if I told you I knew something terrible was going to happen there? I'd ask why. What if I couldn't answer? I'd ask whether your belief was based on something observable. I almost laughed. Still an accountant. Occupational damage. I looked out the window. I had a dream. Not quite a lie. Noah waited. A very specific one. How specific? July 18th. His face changed. What happens? There is a fire. Mara. I know. No, I don't think you do. You're talking about a date like it's a scheduled meeting. I understand how it sounds. Then help me understand why you believe it. I couldn't. Rebirth was one truth too far. Not because Noah would mock me, because if he believed me, I would drag him into the same prison, knowing, waiting, counting days. I can't. He leaned back. If you genuinely think there's a safety risk, you did the right thing by reporting what you could support. I know. But if this is tied to trauma, anxiety, whatever is happening in your marriage, I'm not hallucinating. I didn't say you were. You were going to? No. His voice sharpened. I was going to say you look like someone waiting for a car crash you've already seen. My eyes burned. Too close. Noah saw it. He went quiet. What happened to you? He asked. I looked at him. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. I can't. He nodded slowly. That hurt worse than pressure. He gathered the papers. We're done for today. Are you angry? No. You're acting angry. I'm worried and I don't know what I'm allowed to ask. That sentence undid something inside me. For years earlier, I had told him he didn't respect boundaries. Now he was building them around me even when I didn't know what I needed. Noah. He stopped. I was wrong about you. Which time? A small smile. I deserved that. When I cut you off. He looked at me. Julian told me you had feelings for me. Noah's face went still. I did. My heart missed a beat. Past tense. Maybe. He said your business advice was really about wanting me to leave him. It wasn't. I know that now. But I did love you. The noise of the coffee shop seemed to move farther away. Noah continued. I wasn't waiting for you to divorce him. I wasn't trying to sabotage him. Both things can be true. Why didn't you tell me? You were married. Simple. I looked down. I'm sorry. I know. This time the words sounded different. Not forgiveness, something closer to possibility. My phone buzzed. A message from Julian. Foundry inspection is fixed. City is overreacting. We're finishing the project. Attached was a photo. Temporary lights glowing over the warehouse floor. I stared at it. July 18th was 12 days away. For 12 days, I tried to convince myself the future had changed. The city had inspected Foundry 17. Corrections had been ordered. Elaine had suspended EVS participation in the project. Tessa had stopped coming to the office. Julian was living in a furnished apartment downtown. Everything was different. The date remained July 18th. I started waking at 3:00 am, not from nightmares, from memory. I knew exactly what happened at 10:42. I knew the sound the first transformer made. I knew which window broke. I knew the fire department arrived fast and still not fast enough for me. Priya noticed my exhaustion during our second legal meeting. You don't have to win every day, she said. I don't know what that means. It means sometimes nothing. Happening is progress. I wanted to believe her. At EVS, the independent review expanded. Noah's team found that Lark and Ash had billed legitimate work. But the structure was improper. No phantom employees. No stolen $1 million. No giant criminal conspiracy. Reality was less dramatic. Julian had directed EVS employees to spend time developing Foundry concepts, then moved portions of that work through Tessa's company without formal board approval. Some expenses had legitimate business purposes. Some were clearly for a future venture Julian and Tessa planned to pursue outside EVS. A mess, a serious mess, but not cartoon villainy. Elaine called me after reading the interim report. You disappointed? What? You sound disappointed. Why would I be disappointed? Because it would be easier if he'd stolen from you. I sat at my desk. Yes. A marriage can be complicated, she said. A ledger is not, unfortunately, this ledger is complicated too. That's not what you said before. I was trying to sound wise. I laughed despite myself. Elaine sighed. Julian is likely facing a fiduciary issue and employment consequences. Tessa has a conflict problem, but don't start mentally spending their prison commissary money. This is probably civil and corporate, not criminal. I know. Good. She paused. Mara? Yes. Whatever happened in your marriage, don't let this company become the weapon. After we hung up, I stared at the old photo on my wall. I took it down, not ripped, not smashed. Just down. That evening Julian called. I nearly let it go to voicemail. Hello? We need to meet. About Foundry. My hand tightened. What about it? The developer is terminating the consulting arrangement because EVS withdrew. That seems predictable. Tessa and I can preserve the project independently. You're asking me for permission? No. Then why are you calling? He exhaled. Because there are design materials at the site that belong to EVS, samples, lighting prototypes, presentation equipment. Have them couriered. Some need to be identified. Send an employee with site authorization during permitted hours. Mara? No. Silence. What? I stood. No. You don't even know what I was going to ask. Yes, I do. You want to go back into that building. It's not condemned. It has unresolved corrections. They fixed the emergency lighting. What about temporary power? The electrical contractor signed off. City reinspection. Tomorrow? What time? Morning. July 18th. My vision narrowed. Do not go there tonight. Julian went quiet. Why tonight? I had made a mistake. I didn't say tonight. Yes, you did. No, I said don't go until reinspection. Mara, my pulse hammered. How do you know Tessa and I were planning to go tonight? I didn't, not in this life, but in the other one. They had 10:00 p.m. champagne, a private look at the finished lighting installation. The hotel confrontation had happened 6 weeks earlier. But the affair continued. I followed them to Foundry 17 then. The fire started. Mara, I forced my voice steady. Because that's exactly the kind of reckless thing you would do. That isn't an answer. Don't go. His breathing changed. Are you watching me? No. Did you hire someone? No. Then how do you know? I don't. Another lie that was also the truth. He swore under his breath. You need help. Probably. I mean it. So do I. I'm going to pick up our property, that's all. With Tessa. Silence. I laughed. Of course. Mara. Do whatever you're going to do. I hung up. My entire body shook. At 8:15 I called Noah. What do you need? He asked. No hello. He had learned my silence. Tell me not to go. Where? You know? Foundry. Yes. No. I closed my eyes. That was fast. You asked. What if something happens? You reported the site. What if they go in? They are adults. What if I could stop it? How? I don't know. Then this isn't a plan, it's panic. I sat on the bedroom floor. Last time I went in. The words slipped out. Noah was silent. I pressed my hand over my mouth. What did you say? Nothing. Mara. I can't. Last time when. I was crying now, quietly angry about it. Please just tell me not to go. Noah's voice softened. I won't. I stared at the carpet. What? If you go, but you don't enter an unsafe building, you don't confront anyone alone, you don't interfere with firefighters or police. And if your purpose is to punish yourself by watching something terrible happen, turn around. I don't know what my purpose is. Then decide before you start the car. At 9:34 I was still home. At 9:47 I put on shoes. At 9:51 I picked up my keys. At 9:53 I set them down. At 9:58 I picked them up again. I hated myself for going. I also knew I would hate myself if I stayed. Foundry 17 sat on a narrow industrial street north of downtown. I parked across the road at 10:23. Julian's car was already there. Tessa's two silhouettes moved behind the high warehouse windows. I could have called them. I didn't. I could have walked across the street. I didn't. I sat in my car with both hands around my phone. At 10:39 nothing happened. At 10:40 nothing. My breath became shallow. Maybe it had changed. 10:41 I almost laughed. Then the lights inside flickered once, twice. Darkness. At 10:42 an orange flash lit the western windows. My body remembered before my mind did. I dialed 911. 911. What is the address of your emergency? Foundry 17 Brighton Boulevard. There is a fire inside. Are you inside the building? No. Can you see flames or smoke? Yes, flames through the west windows. 2 people are inside. Do you know where? Upper mezzanine or central floor? They entered through the south side. My voice sounded calm. My body was not, smoke pressed against the glass from inside. A window cracked. The sound carried across the street. Do not enter the building. The dispatcher said. I started laughing. One sharp, broken sound. I won't. Ma'am. I said I won't. I got out of the car. Heat already moved across the road in waves. The first sirens arrived fast. Faster than I remembered. Or maybe time had moved differently while I was dying. A fire engine blocked the intersection. Firefighters jumped down before the vehicle fully stopped. I pointed to inside south entrance. There was temporary power renovation. The rear east passage had stored materials during the last inspection. A captain grabbed my shoulders. You work here? My company did. Anyone else? I don't think so. Stay back. I did. That was the difference. The first time I had already been inside. I had arrived furious and gone through the side door to find Julian and Tessa. They were on the mezzanine, champagne open, her mouth swollen from his. My marriage had ended 15 seconds before the lights exploded. Then everyone became human. Betrayal stopped mattering. There was only smoke and survival. I helped Tessa down the stairs. Julian went back for his phone because it had the access code to a side gate. A stupid decision, a normal stupid decision. We became separated. I got out. Then I heard him. I went back. This time I stood behind the fire line while professionals entered. Every cell in my body screamed that I was abandoning him. I took one step. A firefighter blocked me with an arm. Ma'am. My husband is in there. They're going in. I know. Stay here. I could see the upper windows at 10:49. A figure appeared behind one. Julian. He hit the glass once. My knees almost failed. Mara. I don't know if he actually shouted my name. Maybe my brain supplied it from the other life. I moved forward. The firefighter blocked me again. No. He's right there. They have him. A ladder went up. Smoke swallowed the window. I couldn't breathe for one insane second. I was back under the beam. My hand burned. My lungs filled. Julian screamed. Then someone grabbed my face. Not here, not now. I pressed both palms against my own cheeks. This is now, I whispered. What? The firefighter asked. Nothing. At 10:56 they brought Tessa out through the south entrance. She was conscious barely. Her left arm looked wrong. A paramedic put oxygen over her face. She saw me even through smoke and distance. I knew the exact moment she recognized me. Her eyes widened. She tried to lift her hand. I did not go to her. At 11:02 they brought Julian out alive. He coughed so violently his entire body folded. The paramedics moved him onto a stretcher. I walked forward only when someone waved me through. Relationship? Paramedic asked. I looked at Julian. My husband. He opened his eyes. Mara? Yes. How? Don't talk. Tessa. Alive. His eyes closed. He grabbed my wrist. The gesture almost destroyed me in my first life. His hand had been the reason I turned around. This time I gently removed it. You're safe, I said. Not we're safe. You. The ambulance took him. Another took Tessa. I stood in the road while water streamed black from the building. A man in a city jacket approached me around midnight. Miss Ellison? Yes. Mateo Ruiz, fire investigation. He showed identification. I need to ask some preliminary questions. Okay. You made the first 911 call? Yes. You reported safety concerns about this property earlier this month? Yes. His eyes stayed on mine. And you happened to be across the street when the fire started. There it was. The question I had known would come. Yes. Why? Because I died here. Because my husband screamed my name while the ceiling fell. Because I woke up 6 weeks earlier and spent every day trying to stop. This. I couldn't say any of that. My husband and my friend were inside. That doesn't explain why you were already here. I looked at the burning warehouse. I suspected they were meeting for the project. I laughed weakly. No, Ruiz waited. They were having an affair. His expression barely changed. Did you intend to confront them? No. Why come? That was harder. I looked through the smoke. I wanted to know if they would really do it. Do what? Come here after being warned. About the building. Yes, he studied me. Did you touch anything inside this property tonight? No. Enter the site? No. Speak with either of them before the fire? No. Send them messages? No. He nodded. We'll need a formal statement. I understand. Your earlier safety report will be part of the file. I expected that. He looked toward the damaged roof. You called quickly. I saw the flash. Good. Good. One word. It nearly broke me. I had done the right thing, hadn't I? I called 911. I stayed out. I let trained firefighters rescue them, but part of me had known. Maybe not exactly what would happen after the inspection changed things, but enough, and I went there anyway to watch. At 1:15 am. I reached the hospital. Julian had smoke inhalation, a fractured wrist and minor burns. Tessa had a broken arm and deeper burns along one side of her lower leg from falling debris. Serious, not life-threatening. I stood outside Julian's room for several minutes. He was awake when I entered. His eyes filled immediately. You knew? I stopped. What? You knew something would happen. My skin turned cold. Why would you say that? Because you told me not to go. I knew the building had safety problems. No. His voice was rough from smoke. You knew tonight. I pulled a chair closer but did not sit. You were told not to enter before reinspection. We thought the work was finished. You thought wrong. He closed his eyes. Mara. What? Were you outside the whole time? Yes. The question behind his question filled the room. Why didn't you come in? He didn't say it. Maybe some part of him understood how monstrous it would sound. I sat down. In another life, I whispered, I would have. He opened his eyes. What does that mean? I looked at the man I had once died for. It means I'm done running into fires you walked into yourself. Julian turned his face away. I stayed until a nurse came in, then I left. In the hallway I saw Noah. For 1 second relief overwhelmed me, then I realized he looked furious. You came here, I said. You called me at 9:58 and then stopped answering. I was driving. To Foundry. Yes, his jaw tightened. Did you know? I didn't answer. Mara? I knew there might be a fire. His face changed, not disbelief, fear. You knew enough to be there before it started. Yes. And you didn't call anyone until you saw flames. I had already reported the building. That isn't what I asked. I couldn't call 911 and tell them a fire was going to happen because I dreamed it. So you went to watch. The word struck exactly where it should. I looked down. Yes. Noah stepped back. I had seen him angry before. I had never seen him look at me like that. I need to go. Noah. I am glad you're alive. His voice broke slightly. That is the only thing I know how to feel right now. Then he walked away. I stood alone under hospital lights. For the first time since waking on June 3rd. Surviving did not feel like winning. Tessa accused me 3 days later, not publicly, not formally, just in a hospital room while her mother sat beside the bed. I had gone because I thought I owed her that much. Maybe I also wanted absolution. I should have known better. Her face was pale. Her left arm was immobilized. Bandages covered part of her leg. When she saw me, she started crying. Her mother stood. I'll get coffee. Neither of us stopped her. The door closed. Tessa stared at me. You knew, Julian had told her. I knew the building wasn't safe. That's not what I mean. I sat in the chair farthest from the bed. What do you mean? You knew something was going to happen that night. I didn't answer. Her mouth trembled. You wanted us to burn? No. You were there? Yes. Watching? Yes. Mara? Her voice cracked. How could you? Anger rose fast. How could I? I almost stood. You slept with my husband for 11 months. And that means I deserve to die. No. Then why were you there? I opened my mouth. Nothing came, because she was asking the same question Noah had, and I still hated the answer. I wanted to see whether I would make the same choice again. Tessa stared. What choice? I looked at her bandages. You wouldn't understand. Try me. I couldn't tell her I had once dragged her through smoke. I couldn't tell her I had gone back for Julian. I couldn't tell her that in another version of the world, my mother had buried me while Tessa recovered. So I said the ugliest part one could admit. Part of me wanted to watch you face consequences I couldn't fix. Tessa went still. Their truth, not all of it. Enough. Her eyes filled again. I thought you were better than me. So did I. That silenced both of us. After a minute she whispered, I didn't start seeing Julian because I hated you. I know. I loved you. I know. I still do. That doesn't help. I know. We sounded ridiculous. Two women repeating knowledge as if knowing something made it bearable. Tessa wiped her face. I resented you. You told me. No, not all of it. I waited. When my mom got sick, you paid for the lawyer. You paid me back. 3 years later. So I spent 3 years feeling like a charity case. I never treated you that way. No, you treated me like family. She laughed bitterly. Which meant I couldn't even leave. What does that mean? Every job I got, you helped. Every room I entered, someone knew you. When I had ideas, you improved them. I thought that's what friends did. Maybe. She looked away. But somewhere along the way I stopped knowing which parts of my life were mine. I wanted to reject it. Then I remembered Julian saying I solved him. Noah saying I became controlling when afraid. Patterns were annoying things. They survived even when villains disappeared. You could have left, I said. I know. You could have told me. I know. You could have chosen literally anyone except my husband. Her face broke. I know. That was the line. Understanding ended there. I don't forgive you. I didn't ask. Good. I stood at the door, Tessa said. Mara, I turned. Did you love him? The question startled me. Of course. No, I mean, did you still love him when you saw the fire? My throat closed. Yes, she nodded. Then she cried in a way that made me leave before I did something stupid like comfort her outside. I sat in the hospital parking garage. Noah had not called. I didn't blame him. Mateo Ruiz did. The formal fire interview lasted almost 2 hours. I had counsel present because Priya recommended it, though no one had accused me of a crime. Ruiz walked through the timeline carefully. My arrival, my 9/11 call, my prior complaint, the company dispute, the affair. You understand why this sequence raises questions, he said. Yes. Did you cause or contribute to the fire? No. Did you instruct anyone to alter electrical equipment? No. Did you disable safety systems? No. Did you have access to the site? Through company work earlier in the project, not that night. Did you enter? No, he nodded. Why did you believe there would be danger on July 18th? I had prepared for this, because the contractor invoice showed final temporary electrical work scheduled around that date, and I knew Julian intended to use the site despite incomplete corrections. True, incomplete, but true. Ruiz studied me. You chose that exact evening because my husband told me he was going. Also true, he eventually closed the file. We have no indication at this stage that the fire was intentionally set. My shoulders dropped. What caused it? Too early. Electrical. Possibly. He watched my face. You seem relieved. I am. Why? Because I don't want anyone thinking I did it. That includes you. The question stopped me. Ruiz gathered his papers. People in complicated situations sometimes carry responsibility that isn't theirs and reject responsibility that is. My job is just to sort physical cause. He stood. Your emotional cause is somebody else's department. After the interview, I finally called Noah. He didn't answer. I texted, you were right. I went there partly to watch. I'm not proud of it. I'm not asking you to make me feel better. No response. That evening Julian came to the house. His wrist was casted. He looked thinner. I need clothes. Take whatever you need. He went upstairs. 20 minutes later he came down carrying a suitcase. He stopped at the door. Tessa thinks you tried to kill us. I didn't. I know. That surprised me. You do. You called 911 before the alarm company did. He looked at me. And you reported the building before the fire. If you wanted us dead, you chose a strange way to do it. I almost smiled. Then he said, but you knew enough to come. Yes. Will you ever tell me how? No. He nodded slowly. I think part of me wanted you to come inside. The admission turned my stomach. I know. That's horrible. Yes. He looked down. When I saw you outside, I thought, Mara will fix this. There it was, the whole marriage in one sentence. I know. I said again, his eyes filled. I am sorry. For the affair. For expecting you to save me. That was the first apology that reached me. I opened the door. Goodbye, Julian. He left at 11:07 that night. Noah finally replied, I don't think you're cruel. I think you're hurt enough that you're capable of cruelty. So am I. That's why choices matter. I read it 3 times. Then another message arrived. Eat something. You forget when you're scared. I cried harder over that than anything else. The final fire report arrived 6 weeks later. The origin was electrical. A temporary distribution panel serving lighting and renovation equipment had developed excessive heat at a termination point. Combustible materials stored nearby ignited. The fire spread quickly because portions of the building were still under renovation. One exit path had been narrowed by staging materials. Emergency lighting corrections had been made, but the site had not yet received final approval for the type of gathering Julian and Tessa held that night. No arson, no sabotage, no mystery, just several ordinary bad decisions meeting at the same time. That almost made it worse. The corporate review was similar. Julian and Tessa had not emptied EVS. They had not built a criminal empire. They had done something smaller and more human. They had gradually convinced themselves that rules intended for everyone else did not fully apply to them. Tessa's Lark and Ash invoices covered real design work mixed with costs that should have been directly attributed and disclosed. Julian had authorized employee time on Foundry while privately discussing joining the future venture. Several expenses were reimbursable, others were not. The board concluded that both had breached company policy and that Julian had failed his conflict and disclosure obligations as an executive. Elaine negotiated his resignation rather than dragging the company through a public fight. Tessa's employment ended. Larkin Ash repaid disputed charges as part of a settlement. Again, no prison, no dramatic handcuffs. Consequences rarely arrived with theme music. Julian lost the company he helped build. Tessa lost the career she had built inside it. I lost them both, that was enough. Noah presented the final financial report at the board meeting, professional, precise. He barely looked at me. When it ended, I followed him into the hallway. Do you have a minute? 5? I owe you the rest. He stopped. The rest of what? The truth. He looked toward the conference room. Not here. We walked to a small park 3 blocks away. I sat on a bench. Noah remained standing until I said, please. He sat. I did not tell him I had literally died. I tried. The words would not come. Instead, I gave him the shape of it. I knew the fire because I had seen it in my head before it happened, not like anxiety, not like a guess. I knew the time, I knew where Julian would appear, I knew the side exit would be bad. I knew what smoke would smell like. Noah stared at me. What are you telling me? I don't know. You had a vision. Something like that. It was cowardly, but it was the most I could manage. In what you saw, he asked slowly. What happened to you? My throat closed. I looked away. Mara? I died? The park seemed to become completely still. Noah did not laugh. That was almost worse. How? I went back inside. For Julian. Yes, he lowered his head. For a long time neither of us spoke. Finally he said. And then you woke up before it happened, yes. You actually believe this? Yes, he rubbed both hands over his face. I don't know what to do with that. Neither do I. You've been carrying this alone since June? Yes, his eyes flashed. You called me the first day. Yes, why? Because in whatever happened before, you weren't in my life anymore. That landed. I remembered dying. I whispered. And one of the first things I regretted was that I had let someone else convince me to throw away a person who had once mattered to me. Noah looked at me. Don't make me part of your second chance mythology. The words hurt. He continued before I could react. If you're telling me this is real, then I need you to understand something. I am not a reward for making better choices this time. I know. Do you? Yes, my voice broke. I called you because I trusted you. I also called because I missed you. Both were selfish. He looked away. Thank you. Another long silence. Then he said, in the first version, did you know about Julian and Tessa? Yes. Did we reconcile? No. Did I come to your funeral? I don't know. That was the truth. I had not seen him in the strange impressions after my death. Maybe he had stayed away. Maybe he hadn't known. Noah's eyes were wet. I hate this. So do I. I don't know whether I believe it. You don't have to. But I believe you believe it. That may be enough. He laughed once. Very generous of you. I am trying not to control the outcome. Look at that growth. I smiled through tears. For the first time in weeks he touched me. Not a kiss, not an embrace. He placed his hand over mine on the bench, warm, steady. I was wrong too, he said. About what? When we stopped speaking. You warned me. I warned you, then when you didn't listen I disappeared. You respected my boundary. I also protected my pride. I looked at him. I could have said, I think Julian is isolating you from people who challenge him, and I care enough to say it once clearly. Instead I got offended and left. You loved me. Yes. Leaving was probably the right thing. Maybe. He squeezed my hand. But being right doesn't mean I handled it perfectly. There it was, the part one had wanted this whole story to have, not absolution, proportion. Julian had betrayed me. Tessa had betrayed me. I had not caused their choices, but I had participated in the conditions of my own loneliness. Noah had not abandoned me, but he had let wounded pride close a door he might have left unlocked. We had all been adults, we had all chosen. The fire report did not say anyone deserved what happened, it only said where the heat began and how it spread. Human lives were less precise. A week later Julian signed his resignation. He asked to see me afterward. We met in an empty EVS studio. He stood beneath the old company logo. 8 years, he said. Yes. I thought this place was proof I mattered. You did matter. Not enough. That was never something I could fix for you. He nodded. I know that now. He had started therapy. I knew because he told me, not because it was part of a redemption performance. I loved Tessa. He said. I flinched. I'm not saying that to hurt you. Then why say it? Because I spent months telling myself it was just a symptom of our marriage. It wasn't. I loved her. I loved you. I hated myself. I wanted a life that made me feel bigger. He laughed bitterly. I apparently thought having 2 women love me would solve that. Did it? No. He looked toward the darkened office. It made me smaller. I believed him. That did not mean I wanted him back. Sometimes understanding arrives after desire is gone. That is its own kind of mercy. My divorce did not end in a courtroom speech. No one gasped. No one begged on their knees. There was no judge telling Julian he had ruined the best woman he would ever have. There were spreadsheets, valuation reports, tax returns, lawyer emails, a mediator named Susan who kept granola bars in a bowl and said things like, "I understand both positions, which is why neither side is getting everything." Julian and I spent months untangling 6 years of marriage and 8 years of business. Colorado's equitable distribution rules did not care that he cheated in the way my anger wanted them to. The business required valuation. Some interest predated the marriage. Other value had accumulated during it. We negotiated rather than litigated every point. Julian wanted cash. I wanted control of EVS. Elaine's investment complicated everything. Eventually we reached a structure that nobody loved and everybody could live with. That was probably what fair looked like. Julian transferred his remaining management rights and a negotiated portion of equity. I refinanced part of the buyout through the company with Elaine's approval. He received a payout schedule rather than a dramatic check. Tessa was not involved in the divorce. Her settlement with EVS was separate. Priya stopped me twice from making decisions purely because I wanted a cleaner break. Financial amputation is still amputation, she said. I thought lawyers liked conflict. Only lawyers who aren't billing you honestly. By December, Julian and I could sit across from each other without bleeding emotionally, not comfortably, but quietly. One afternoon after mediation, we stood in the courthouse parking garage. He had a scar along his wrist where the cast had rubbed against healing skin. "You look different," he said. "So do you?" "I mean calmer." "I am not calmer. You hide it better." I smiled slightly. "That sounds more accurate." He put his hands in his coat pockets. Tessa moved to Oregon. I knew Elaine had mentioned forwarding paperwork. She and I aren't together. I didn't know that. I expected satisfaction. It never arrived. "I'm sorry." Julian laughed. "That might be the cruelest thing you've ever said." "I meant it." "I know." He looked at the concrete floor. "The fire changed it." "How?" She couldn't look at me without remembering the building. I couldn't look at her without remembering what everything cost. "That isn't her fault." "No." "Or yours alone." "No," he nodded. "I think we were very good at wanting a future and terrible at living inside consequences." I understood that. Before he walked away, he said, "I hope Noah makes you happy." I stiffened. "We're not together." "He always loved you." "So everyone knew except me." "You knew?" I stared. Julian smiled sadly. "You just didn't choose it." Maybe that was true too. Noah and I were not together, not yet. We had dinner sometimes, coffee more often. He helped EVS finish its restructuring engagement, then formally ended the professional relationship before anything romantic happened. His idea? Conflict of interest, he said. "You are annoyingly ethical." "It's my only marketable trait." "That's not true." He looked at me. For a second the air changed, then he stepped back. "Not yet." I knew what he meant. He wasn't going to become the man who picked me up from the wreckage before I knew how to stand. I respected him for it. I also wanted to throw something at him. EVS shrank. We lost 2 clients after Julian's resignation. Another stayed only after Elaine personally assured them our governance had changed. I promoted an operations manager who had been doing half my job while I controlled every major decision. That was harder than it sounds. The first time she approved a vendor without asking me. I nearly opened the contract and reviewed every clause, then I stopped. "You trust her?" Noah said when I complained later. "Yes." "Then act like it." "I hate when you say simple things. You pay consultants thousands for simple things." "I don't pay you anymore." Exactly why I'm allowed to be annoying for free. We were sitting in his kitchen. It was January, snow pressed against the windows. I had come over to return a book 3 hours earlier. "You cooked?" I said. "I heated soup." "You made bread." "I purchased bread." "You put it in the oven." "Heroic." I laughed. Noah watched me. The laughter faded. "What?" "Nothing." "Noah, you seem like yourself." I looked down at the bowl. "I don't know who that is anymore." "Good." I frowned. He continued. "Maybe you shouldn't go back." That was when I kissed him. No grand decision, no soundtrack. I leaned across the space between our chairs and kissed the man I had once almost loved, then lost, then found again after dying. He froze. For one terrifying second I thought I had ruined everything. Then he kissed me back, slowly, carefully. When we separated, he rested his forehead against mine. "Mara, I know." "No, you don't." Then tell me. If we do this, I am not Julian's opposite. I know. I am not proof that you won. I know. I am not your second life. That one hurt. I took his face in my hands. No. What am I? I thought about it, Noah. His eyes softened. That's a surprisingly good answer. I worked hard on it. He laughed, then kissed me again. We did not call ourselves a couple that night. We didn't need to. Some beginnings are stronger when nobody forces them to become promises too quickly. Tessa asked to see me the following spring. For 2 days I considered saying no, then I said yes, not because I wanted reconciliation, because I no longer wanted fear deciding which doors I opened. She chose a cafe near Washington Park, neutral ground. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was shorter, a faint scar ran from below her knee toward her ankle. She walked normally, though slightly slower than before. Mara, Tessa. We did not hug. She ordered tea. I ordered coffee. For several minutes we discussed nothing, weather, Denver construction, her move. Eventually I asked, why did you want to see me? She put both hands around her cup. To apologize without explaining. I waited. I used explanations as shields, she said. My childhood, money, feeling indebted to you, feeling invisible next to you, Julian understanding me. Her mouth tightened. Some of it was true, none of it made the affair happen. We did. I looked at her. That sounds like therapy. A lot of therapy. Good. She smiled faintly. Very expensive therapy. Also good. That surprised a laugh out of both of us. For 1 second we were 24 again, then it passed. Tessa looked down. I don't expect us to be friends. We won't be. Her eyes filled. I hated that my own did too. I know. I swallowed. You hurt me more than Julian did. I know. Because he was my husband, but you were. I couldn't finish. She did. Home. I looked away. That was the word. Before Julian, before EVS, before adulthood became mortgages and equity agreements, Tessa had been the person who knew which version of me existed before ambition. Losing her felt like losing a witness. I am angry at you. I said, you should be. Sometimes I miss you. She cried silently. So do I. I don't think those things cancel each other. No. We sat with that. After a while she said, I used to tell myself you needed to be needed. I thought about it. I did. You saved people. I controlled problems. Sometimes those looked the same. Yes, she looked at me. I think part of me wanted to prove I could take something from you. The honesty shocked me. Julian. Maybe. Her face twisted. God, that sounds horrible. It is horrible. I know. But I believe you. Tessa nodded. I loved him too. I know. I think that's why I had to leave. Because you loved him. Because after the fire every feeling got mixed with what we had done. I couldn't tell whether staying with him was love or stubbornness. I understood more than I wanted to. Do you hate me for being outside? I asked. She looked at me for a long time. Sometimes. Fair. Do you think I tried to kill you? No. Another pause. I think part of you wanted us to be scared. My throat tightened. Yes. And I think you hate that part of yourself. Yes. Maybe stop using that as proof you're secretly terrible. I almost laughed. You don't get to absolve me. I know. She gave a sad smile. But I spent years resenting you for acting like you could judge everyone. It would be hypocritical to leave pretending I can judge all of you. That was Tessa. Even now, even after everything, complicated, infuriating, real. Before we left, she placed something on the table, a brass key. I stared. What is that? Your old apartment. I looked at her. The one we shared after college. You kept a key? I found it while moving. I picked it up. The metal was warm from her hand. We thought we were so poor. We were poor. We spent $60 on champagne when EVS got its first client. It was 48. See, this is why people find you annoying. I laughed, then cried. Tessa cried too. We did not hug. That mattered. Some relationships do not need to be restored to be honored. At the door she said, I hope you're happy. I am getting there. With Noah. I looked at her. People really did know. She smiled. Mara, everyone knew. Apparently I was busy. You usually were. This time there was no bitterness in it, just history. Noah was waiting for me at home, not because I needed supervision, because we had plans for dinner. How was it? He asked. Awful. Useful. Yes. He handed me a glass of water. I showed him the key. He understood immediately. That survived. Apparently. Do you want to keep it? I closed my fingers around it. Yes. He nodded. No advice. That was one of the reasons I loved him. Not because he never tried to fix me, because he had learned when not to. That evening we walked to dinner at a crosswalk. Noah reached for my hand. I let him take it. Nothing burned. No one needed saving. For years I Had thought happiness would feel bigger, it turned out safety was quiet. 2 years after Foundry 17 burned, July 18th arrived on a Friday. I knew the date before I opened my eyes. For months after the fire, every 18th made me uneasy. Every smell of overheated wiring made my heart race. Every siren at night dragged me out of bed. Therapy helped, time helped, Noah helped, mostly by refusing to let himself become treatment. That distinction mattered. He loved me without pretending love. Could repair neurological memory. I learned to live with the fact that my body sometimes remembered dying even when my life was safe. On that second anniversary, I woke before 6. Noah was asleep beside me. We had moved into a small house the previous winter. Not because I needed a fresh start, I had learned to distrust phrases like that. Lives are not notebooks. You don't turn to a clean page and remove everything written before. We bought the house because it had a kitchen Noah liked and a south-facing office I liked and a maple tree in the yard that neither of us needed. His eyes opened. What time is it? 5:48. Illegal. Go back to sleep. He reached for me. I stayed. We were married quietly 7 months earlier at City Hall. Elaine was our witness. Priya came to dinner afterward. Noah's sister cried more than anyone. I wore a cream dress, no giant reception, no symbolic venue, no attempt to replace my first wedding with a better one. That marriage had been real too. Pretending otherwise would have been another lie. Julian lived in Portland now. He worked for a mid-sized architecture studio. The last I heard, he was dating someone, not Tessa. I did not ask for details. Once a year, the company sent him tax documents related to the remaining payout structure. Our communications were polite, occasionally almost warm. I never forgave everything. I stopped needing to. There is a difference between forgiveness and no longer carrying someone around inside your anger. Tessa ran a small independent brand consultancy in Oregon. She mailed me a holiday card once. No letter, just her name. I sent one back the following year. That was our relationship, not friendship, not hatred. A narrow bridge neither of us crossed, but neither of us burned. EVS survived, smaller than before, better probably. Elaine remained on the board. I stepped away from daily COO work the year after the divorce and hired someone more suited to the company's next stage. That decision terrified me more than the divorce settlement. For a long time, work had been where I proved nothing could happen without me. Turns out that is not leadership, it is fear with a calendar. I still owned a significant stake. I still advised. I simply stopped being the person who needed every decision to pass through my hands. Noah said I became slightly less unbearable. I said marriage had lowered his standards. At 8 that morning we drove north. I hadn't told him where we were going. When we turned onto Brighton, he knew. Mara, I want to. We don't have to. I know. The site where Foundry 17 once stood had been sold. The damaged structure was demolished after the investigations and insurance disputes ended. A different developer bought the parcel. Now a low brick building stood there, ground floor workshops, offices above, wide exits, modern electrical service, sprinklers. I knew because I had looked up the permits. Of course I had. Some habits die slower than people. We parked across the street, the same side where I had sat in my car watching the windows at 10:42 for several minutes. Neither of us moved. You okay? Noah asked. Yes. Real answer. I don't know yet. Also acceptable. We got out. Traffic moved behind us. Someone walked a dog, a delivery truck back toward the new building. The world did not know this place had once killed me. That used to bother me. Now it felt merciful. Noah stood beside me. I looked at the second floor windows. No flames, no smoke, just reflected morning sky. I used to think the reason I came back was to stop the fire. I said. Noah waited. Then I thought it was to expose Julian and Tessa. And now? I don't think there was a reason. He glanced at me. That sounds healthier. I know, annoying. Very. I smiled. Maybe I got another life because something impossible happened. Strong scientific framework. Thank you. And maybe you don't have to justify surviving it. That was harder. I looked at him. What if the first Mara deserved to live too? She did. The answer came instantly. My eyes filled. Noah took my hand. She wasn't stupid for going back. He said. I think she was. She loved someone. She died. Yes, his voice softened. Both things are true. I looked across the street. For 2 years I had judged the woman I used to be, too loyal, too controlling, too blind, too proud. She trusted the wrong people. She cut off someone who loved her. She tried to manage everyone else's fear. She rushed into a burning building for a husband who had betrayed her. But she had also built a company from nothing. Fed Tessa when neither of them had money, sat beside Julian through his mother's surgery, loved badly sometimes, loved generously other times. She had been imperfect, so was I. Maybe rebirth had not made me better. Maybe it had simply given me more time to become honest. Noah squeezed my hand. Breakfast. You already ate. I had coffee. That is not food. See, still controlling. I am preventing starvation. Heroic. We turned away from the building. Halfway to the car, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown Oregon number for one foolish second. My heart stopped, then I opened it. A photo. Tessa stood outside a tiny storefront beneath a new sign, Morgan House Creative. Below the photo was one sentence: finally built something that is only mine. I stared at it. No apology, no invitation, no request. I typed back, good, take care of it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then you too. I put the phone away. Noah did not ask. We got into the car. As he started the engine, I looked once more at the street behind us. In my first life, I believed loving people meant running toward them whenever they were in pain. In my second, I learned something less beautiful and more useful. Sometimes you call for help, sometimes you tell the truth, sometimes you stay outside the fire. Not because you want someone to burn, because your life belongs to you too. Noah reached across the console. I took his hand, then we drove home, and for the first July 18th I could remember, I did not look at the clock when it turned 10:42. I was asleep before then, safe beside someone who had never asked me to save him. And finally, quietly, I let the night pass without me.